Hey, this is CrossFitTracking.com for the general review for the Fitbit Versa 2, recently released. A number of good things about it. Just about the casing. It's got an aluminum casing. It's a little bit more slender, feels a little bit more comfortable to wear. The sleep tracking, obviously Fitbit has put a lot of time and development into the quality of the sleep tracking, and it does a great job, for all things considered. They have a new sleep score. I used the premium for a little bit, but didn't find the additional info that helpful. And the sleep score had it all built in. You just couldn't see the specific stats that they were operating off of. Functioning as a smartwatch, it does fine with reading messages or turning different types of notifications on. It has a few basic apps. Everything seems to work fine. The alarm works well. One thing that's new is that the Alexa is built in, is an Alexa app built into the watch, which I found to be somewhat quirky or somewhat spotty, but overall it's a nice addition because you can just hold the button down and tell it to remind you to do something, and an alarm will pop up on the watch when you are wanting to remember something to do, which is what I would use on a Apple Watch as well. It's got always on screen, so it's a dimmer screen, so you can see it here or you can see the regular watch face there, and the dimmer screen is great actually. I mean, it shows the battery, it shows sort of simple stats for walking or steps and calories. So I found the always on to be fantastic, and that leads to battery life. So the basic watch has a 5-day battery life, but with the always on screen it's reduced, but I haven't found it to be terribly cumbersome. So most always on screens with most smartwatches today, if it's got a reasonable screen quality, turns to make the battery life underperform more significantly. But I've found it to be over 2 days, so if I only have to charge it once every other day, that's not problematic to me. The screen is great quality. Obviously it's visually very easy to use. One thing they've added is a list of stats, so you can scroll from the bottom and you can see your basic stats for the day, which includes sleep, and it'll show you the breakdown of the sleep calculation, as well as the water tracking functionality, where you can just on the watch itself add water input, as well as your cardio score comes up in one of the stat pages. The weight and feel is good. So most everything works really well as far as the basic functionality. As far as issues go, obviously Alexa is a new addition, but it's a little spotty. It doesn't always connect, but at least it's something. One thing that I don't understand is that the watch band itself is a special custom Fitbit band. They could have easily made it sort of fit universal bands, but I believe the lug size is 22.5 millimeters, so it doesn't quite work easily with anything. Obviously, you can buy a bunch of different watch band options on Amazon, but to not have it just functionally use a basic watch band size doesn't make sense to me. And I had a problem with the adjustments of the holes, so if I use a large band, which I typically do, the last hole on it isn't quite tight enough for when you work out to get it firm and snug to your wrist. I'm not sure why they did it there, and the small band is just too small. The charger is terrible. I don't understand why they continue to use this charger where you have to snap it in and it doesn't sit face down or flush against the table. It always sort of leans over, which doesn't make sense. If I was to another small thing that's not as perfect is the always on screen sometimes will lock out notifications. Like, it might appear for a second and then disappear, so you don't get to functionally just sort of look down and see what the notification was, sometimes without the always on screen blocking it or pushing it back out. If you were to compare it to an Apple Watch, which is now at the similar price point or the same price point, there's a million less functions. The Apple Watch obviously does a million more things and ties in a bunch of basic apps and little miniature versions of apps. And the Siri on the Apple Watch is functionally way better. But one thing it does well, Fitbit does well, and most all the sports smartwatches do well relative to the Apple Watch, is that you get all your basic stats in one place. You go to one app, you can see all of it, your workouts, everything is sort of simply pulled together, rather than with the Apple Watch, you have to go to a bunch of different places to sort of track different things and see different things, whether it's settings on the watch or workouts or activity for the day. And then you have to tie in third-party apps just to be able to see sleep components, which are sort of questionable as to whether they're accurate or not. But this is CrossFitTracking.com with the review for the Fitbit Versa 2.